The Narentines alpha O epsilon mu tau alpha nu omicron iota arentanoi, Serbo-Croatian. Neretvani, Italian. Narentani, Narentini, was an ethnonym of a South Slavic tribe that occupied an area of southern Dalmatia west of the river Neretva or Narenta. They were known for their piracy, so they are today known as the Neretva pirates. Some sources referred to their realm as Pagania because they were pagan. The tribe ceased to be recognized after their Christianization in the 9th century. And particularly after the Venetian crackdown at the turn of the 10th century. Terminology. The word Narentine is a demonym derived from the local Neretva river. Another name for the polity was the Latin Mirania, meaning coastland, and Merians to denote the inhabitants. Another term used was Krajinjana, Cranenses, Cherenania. Venetian sources refer to the people as Narentine Slavs. The Chronicle of John the Deacon distinguishes between the Narentines and Dalmatian Croatia. Der Administrander Imperia by Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus says that Pagania descended from the unbaptized Serbs, and that the Pagani are so called because they did not accept baptism at the time when all the Serbs were baptized. It has been suggested that the label of pirates was applied by the victorious Venetians following the battle at Cape Mica. The region was also, considerably later, referred to as a part of Red Croatia. In the Chronicle of the Priest of Duclia written in 1298–1300 by a Catholic monk, a strange republic of Servian pirates arose at the mouth of the Narenta. In the 10th century description of Dalmatia by Constantine Porphyrogenitus, this region is called Pagania, from the fact that its inhabitants had only accepted Christianity about 890, or 250 years later than the other Slavs. These Pagani, or Narentani, defeated a Venetian fleet in 887, and for more than a century exacted tribute from Venice itself. In 998 they were finally crushed by the Doge Pietro Orseolo II, who assumed the title Duke of Dalmatia, though without prejudice to Byzantine suzerainty. Encyclopaedia Britannica, 1911 Geography. According to Dye, Pagania consisted of 3 Zupar, Rastitsa, Mokris and Dalen. Rastitsa and Mokris lay by the coast, and had galleys, while Dalen was distant from the sea and was based on agriculture. The territory included the inhabited cities of Mokron, Berulia, Ostrog and Slavinetsa, and the fertile islands of Korkra, Meleta, Fara and Bratses. The Pagani raised flocks on the islands. The islands in the vicinity, which were not part of Pagania, were Kora, Ies and Lastobon. Croatia was situated to the west, and Zacmlia to the east. Serbia was situated inland to the north, behind Pagania, Zacmlia, Travunia and Dekli, and bordered to Croatia on the rivers Antina and Klabina. The Adriatic coastland that the Narentians inhabited ranged 75 kilometers from the mouth of Neretva in the Adriatic Sea at the east to the river Ceton at the west. It was 10 to 20 kilometers wide, and consisted of 3 smaller Zupar, Maka, Rastic and Dalen. The main early Narentine cities were Vrulja, Mokro, Ostroga and Lavcen, Slavineka. The fortified city of Omis was important in the later ages. They operated off the Neretva Delta, a dense maze of red beds, which provided ample shelter and cover for escape after pirate raids. Their secret village was established far enough upriver to avoid capture, as their small boats, the Lada, could navigate the narrow and shallow waters without fear of pursuit. No bridges connected Koman to the mainland, and the village was hidden from the open sea by the mountains of the Pelješac Peninsula. Religion. The Narentines fiercely opposed Christianity, seeing it as a means of oppression, and cherished their Slavic paganism for a long time. They converted to Christianity about 890, or 250 years later than the other Slavs. Economy. Next to sailing, the Narentines were proficient in trading, growing olives, figs and vineyards. On the outskirts of Biokovo and Mosor and on the islands, they herded cattle and also tilled the fields to some extent. In the later medieval ages, Morania imported wheat and exported wine, salted fish, dry fruits, etc. The Narentines were experts at piracy, which was their main source of income. The loot was split traditionally as was the catch of fish. One half goes to the provider of the shipson, or the organizer of the hunt, and the other half is split amongst the crew members. They were especially notorious for selling captives into slavery. The main type of vessel the Narentines used was the Slavic sagina from the beginning of the 9th century, a variation of the Scandinavian Viking draka. It was a relatively shallow vessel that was specific for its high speed with a slender body, a sharp bow and a mast. It was manned by 40 crew members that were at the same time professional fighters. Other than this type of vessel, the pagans used the kondura, a ship similar to the sagina, but a lot smaller, with a crew of 20 members. The Merians also used other types of vessels and barges. Rulers. The Narentines' rulers were called maustics and judges, although the church refers to them as kings. The titles of the nobility were typical Slavic titles: knez Zupan, treasure keeper, chaplain, knight. History. Origins. Slavs began overrunning the Balkans in the 6th century. In 639 AD, Nerona, until then a flourishing Roman city, was destroyed by a horde of Avars and Slavs. A few years later, Slavic tribes took control of the lower Neretva. The Slavs built a new town on the ruins of Nerona, and erected a monument to their Slavic god Svetovid, on the ruins of Roman temples. Narenta became a stronghold for pagans in the Balkans, similarly to Baltic Slavs in Rugan. The Narentines remained pagan until 873, when Byzantine Admiral Nicetasuraphase persuaded them to accept baptism. The Slavic god Svetovid was transformed into the Christian Saint Vitus. Early the Narentine pirates started to improve their shipbuilding trades when the Arabs started to massively jeopardize the Eastern Roman imperial waters. The Slavs became skilled shipbuilders and talented in the naval arts. As the original Illyrian population dwindled, the remaining Illyrians taught the Slavic people the traditional trade of the coast, becoming the only experts in navigation and buccaneering that the Slavic people have turned out. Already by the middle of the 7th century, in 642, the Slavs dispatched from the Dalmatian coast towards Italy and invaded Siponta at the Gulf of Monte Gargano. Afterwards, raids in the Adriatic increased rapidly, until Slavs became the most fearsome threat to safe traveling. In 827 to 828, when the majority of the Venetian naval power was campaigning in the Sicilian waters, the Narentines took more liberty in their raiding quests, but after the Venetian navy returned, the Narentines eased down again. One Narentine leader was baptized in the Republic of Venetia in 829, marking a treaty between Mirania and the Venetian Republic. However, they felt no great need to faithfully observe the treaty. When Venice weakened, they resurrected their old trade of piratical raiding. When the Narentines raided and slaughtered several Venetian traders returning from the Duchy of Benevento in southern Italia in 834–835, the Venetians were petrified. It is because of this that the new Venetian Doge, Pietro Tradornico, led a large fleet against these Slavic pirates across the Adriatic in 839. To divide and conquer them, the Venetians made peace with Neretva's traditional allies, the Croats of Dalmatia under Duke Mislav, and with some of the Marian tribes led by Prince Druzak. The Venetian offensive was launched again in 840 against the Narentine Prince Ludislav, but met little success. Doge Pietro had lost more than 100 men on this campaign and had to return to Venetia. These Dalmatian Slavs utilized the moment of Venetian weakness when the Arabs were heavily attacking them, and took more and more daring military attempts against the Venetians. In 846, they breached Venice itself and robbed the neighboring lagoon city of Caral. After numerous successful military attempts, self-conscience, freedom and tribalism gained ever more strength in Neretva. The Marians were the first South Slavs that took the initiative of fighting for themselves, but unlike other Slavs, these were strictly for the personal gain of looting. In the 9th century, the pirates destroyed the fortified settlement of Sipar, 6 miles north of Umag. By the second half of the 9th century, the Narentines had long been trying to change their lifestyle from piracy completely. Despite that, the Narentines kidnapped the Roman bishops' emissaries that were returning from the ecclesiastical council in Constantinople in the middle of March 870. The pagans long resisted the influences of Christianity, until Eastern Roman Emperor Basil I of the Macedonian dynasty finally pacified them with a naval military attempt, after which he reunified the whole of Dalmatia under imperial Byzantine rule. The pagans sent emissaries to the emperor and requested baptizing. The Byzantine Empire sent priests to Pagania and established a protectorate over the Slavs. They were baptized after 870. Arab mariners raided Narentine in 872. The Arabs continued to dominate the Adriatic seas until the Byzantines pushed the Saracens out of it and the surrounding regions. As soon as the imperial navy abandoned the waters of the Adriatic, the pagans could not resist reviving their old habits, which caused a Venetian military offensive against him in 886. Venetia's Doge Pietro I Candiano himself went with 12 galleys to invade Neretva's waters in 887 and sank 5 Narentine ships in the port of Mokro. After he landed his forces near Mokro, he chased the Marians, advancing deeper inland. On the 18th of September 887, the Narentines rushed against him and decisively defeated him. In the battle, Doge Pietro I himself lost his life, which caused the Venetian Republic to renew the anti-Slavic alliance with Berengar of Italy on the 7th of May 888. The Serbian monarchs, who saw the Narentine territories, among others, as legally parts of their realm, sought to incorporate Narentine within its borders. After the 893 friendship between the former enemies, Serbia and Bulgaria, Grand Prince Peter Gojniković of the Vlastimirovich dynasty started to exert his influence over Pagania with full effect. Dyrrachium's governor Leo Rabdochos came to the Narentine frontier to seek allies and to gain support against the growing threat of the Bulgarians. He met with Grand Prince Peter on the coast of Murania, where the Serbian ruler negotiated an alliance with the Byzantines. In 917 Grand Prince Peter was tricked, and the Bulgarians installed his cousin, Pavle Branović of the same dynasty. As Pavle denied the suzerainty of the Bulgarian Tsardom, Tsar Simeon deposed him because of this and installed his cousin Zaharij Priboslavljevich in 920–923, but then tricked the nobility and annexed Serbia in 924–927. In 927 Prince Kaslav Konomirovich, the last of the Vlastimirovich dynasty, returned and rebuilt Serbia by 931, maintaining relations with the Byzantine Empire. After the death of Croatian King Kresimir in 945, civil war erupted over succession to the Croatian crown, and the Narentines took the islands of Kazar, Vis and Lastovo. They refused to give up piracy, which caused Doge Pietro III Candiano to lead a fleet of 33 galleys against him in 948, attacking in 2 waves. Both military attempts utterly failed to put an end to the Narentine domination of the Adriatic, and ever since the second, the Venetians were forced to pay taxes to the Marians for safe passage through the Adriatic Sea. In 960 the Serbian realm collapsed and the Byzantines created the Katepa native race in its place, and the Narentines fell to Croatian influence. On 9 May 1000, Venetian Doge Pietro II Orseola decided to conquer the allied Croats and Narentines, protecting the interests of their trading colonies and the Dalmatian Romanized citizenry. Without difficulty, he struck the entire eastern Adriatic coastline, with only the Marians offering him some resistance. As a counterattack, the Narentines kidnapped 40 of Zadar's foremost citizens and stole a transport of goods from Apulia. On their way home, Venetian Doge Peter II dispatched 10 ships that surprised him between Lastovo and Kaka and took them as prisoners to Troga. Narentine emissaries came to the Doge's temporary residence at Split to beg for the release of the prisoners. They guaranteed that the Marian prince himself will show up with his men and renounce the old rights to tax the Venetians for free passage. All prisoners were allowed to return to their homes, except for 6 Narentines that were kept as hostages. Lastovo and Corcula continued to oppose the Venetians. Corcula was conquered by Doge Peter II and Lastovo fell too after long bloody fights. As Lastovo was very infamous in the Venetian world for being a pirate haven, the Doge ordered the Lastovo city to be evacuated in order to be razed. After the denizens of Lastovo refused to concur, the Venetians attacked the city. It was seized and entirely razed to the ground by the Venetian forces. As soon as the Bulgarian Empire was destroyed by the Byzantines in 1018, the Neretvians were briefly annexed by the Byzantine Empire in the theme of arentanoi, later Piracy. After the Venetian crackdown at the turn of the 11th century, the piracy was occasionally resurrected, centered further north at Omis, near the mouth of the Ceton River. By the 12th century, the pirates of Omis were known to conduct raids as far north as Zara and as far south as northern Albania, and organized under the local clan of Hxseek. In 1167, the city of Katero was forced to pay tribute to Knez Nikola Hxseek of Omis. A similar agreement was made with Ragusa in 1190. In the early 13th century, Venice occupied Zara and Ragusa, but their trade was impacted by these pirates, so even they agreed to a signed truce in 1208. In 1258, the Hxseek family received noble status from the King of Hungary Bela IV. Naval battles were recorded in 1274 and later, even after 1409 when Ladislaus of Naples sold Dalmatia to Venice. As the city of Omis was occupied by the Venetians only in 1444. After that, Dalmatia was ruled by the Venetians, and piracy reappeared only with the Uskoks in the 16th century. Legacy. They hold a special place in the national folklore of Croatia, as they fought off the Venetians, Genoese, Ottomans and marauding bands of Muslim pirates. The 18th of September is commemorated by the Croatian Navy in honor of the Narentines' victory over the Venetians near Makarska.